Hi guys. Oh, yes, hello. Welcome back to another grooming session. This is the pre-show wash. So you've already seen that we did the spring brush out for Persephone. That's who's on the stand, by the way. And we've done a pretty good job because she, despite being my natural pig pen who likes to get into everything, she is in really good shape. So I'm doing a quick once over with the brush to make sure there's nothing too stuck in her. And, you know, we're seeing a little bit of fuzz, which is normal because she's still shedding. But what I want to do is anything that's loosened up since the last grooming session, which, although you're going to see them weeks apart, she was groomed on Saturday last week, and this is Sunday this week. I would have done it yesterday. That would have been my preference, but it was cold and raining all day. In fact, it's still cold and miserable and damp. But I don't have a choice. It has to get done because now she's going to get this bath, which I'll call the pre-show wash. And then on Thursday this week, so quite literally 4 days from now, she will get another bath. And that will be the show prep, right? At that point, she'll go into, you know, I'll have cleaned the stall just like I did this morning. So this morning I cleaned stalls. And she'll go into the clean stall, and I will hope that she stays clean for the evening because Friday we load them up and we take them to the show. I do not wash them at the show. A lot of people do. But there's just so much washing one can do. See, this is all I'm doing is I'm pulling out some loose cashmere that has come out. And sorry if my head just went right in the middle of the camera angle there. I'm putting it in the muck bucket that's over a little too far away. It's kind of a little chaotic with wash day. One, I'm trying a new camera angle. I'm not sure if it's any good, so you'll have to tell me that. But two, I don't want the muck bucket where I normally have it right at my feet because it would get full of water and that would defeat the purpose. So yeah, I just have to step in front of the camera a few times. She's got one little tangle back here, not surprising because she's still nursing kids and they are still working through her stuff. So we're just gonna get that tangle out. I do try and get all the tangles out before I get them wet. They hate being wet. They're not particularly fond of baths. They're not particularly fond of being out in the rain. They're just, you know, goats are not interested in being wet. That is not their MO. They don't stand out in the rain. They don't normally get wet like that, right? They would come into their stall or hang at the overhang as opposed to be outside getting damp or wet, even if it's just a spring shower. So they're not the most fond of their baths. These guys are all used to it because they do go to shows. They have been bathed so many times over the years that they're pretty used to the situation. But they don't love it. And so I try and make it as fast as possible that, you know, they're washed, rinsed, conditioned, rinsed, brushed, and off the stand. So by doing all this pre-work, right, by doing an entire grooming session last weekend to pre-prep her for baths makes a huge difference. Getting this knot out that's back here before I bathe her so that it's not a big wet mess that I have to work through while she's on the stand wet and unhappy is also part of the process. Her other side was brilliantly clean. So this side just has this one tangle back here, which means her kids have probably been chewing on her hair. Fantastic. But we're about done. We about got it kicked. And yeah, those 2 or 3 minutes of extra work here in front make the bath process go 10 times smoother. And again, because it's not ideal weather, it's a little windy, a little breezy. There you go. I just got that one out. There it is. That's all that was. All that work for that little thing. Here, I'll collect it instead of putting my head in the way again. So it's a little breezy. It is very damp outside. It's got a chill in the air. We're only about, well, I'll tell you exactly. We're 49 degrees Fahrenheit. So, you know, it's not terrible. I probably should be wearing a jacket, but I'm going to get saturated by the end of the day. I have 3 goats to wash today. And part of my process, if you were with me last year while I was bathing, is I try and be in the same position as the goat, right? So I'm going to be wet. I'm going to be cold. They will handle it better than I do, but that gives me the ability to understand what they're experiencing, react to it appropriately. You know, like if I start to shiver to the point that it's uncontrollable, then we know that the goats are pretty uncomfortable. So all of those knots are now out, except for this one. Uh-oh. That's why I run my hands over them. This should be fast and easy. But once I get this last one out, all her knots and tangles, and they're not really knots. I know I call it that just because for ease of, you know, trying to identify it. That's what it feels like. But it's actually her undercoat, her cashmere undercoat that is shedding out. And it does sometimes, especially when the coat is dirty, gets hung up in the strands of the coat. And it takes a few bits of work to really get that out. Whereas a clean, smooth, silky goat, it would just flow right through the hair and fall out, right? Could I wash her with that in there? Absolutely. It's not going to hurt her by any means. But what I also find, and this is my experience, there are a lot of people that'll tell you I'm dead wrong. But my experience is that it's easier to get those things out on a dry coat while I can separate the strands, while I'm not using any shampoo or conditioner or anything else. See, it's out. Most of it anyway. Looks like there's one more little bit. So rather than what in my experience is lock that stuff onto wet, clumpy hair, I find it easier to brush it through nice and dry and just have the patience to work for a few minutes at it. A lot of the breeders and groomers, like I said, will tell you that I'm absolutely incorrect, that I'm making things harder on myself. They will just go ahead and wash that goat, slather that goat in conditioning and detangler, which, you know, certainly makes sense, right? And then they will work through on a wet goat. And they're probably right in the sense that it probably is a little easier that way. It probably does go a little bit faster and it's easier on the human that way. I don't know that it's easier on the goat, but it's easier on the human. But that goes back to me and my position where I do this more for the comfort of the goat than my comfort. And it's important to me that the goat is top priority and they don't like to be wet. They dry really fast. And again, if you've seen my videos from last year, they dry really fast. So I'm not worried about that aspect of it. But why make them stand on the stand, sopping wet for longer than necessary, right? As it is, I already have to do the standard 2 rounds. So now what you're going to see is, one, I'm waiting for the water to get warm. On the wall that you're facing, you can see the white box there. That is a on-demand tank water heater. We do use warmer water, and I wait for that water to warm up enough so that we're not washing them with cold water. I also will always have my hand, my bare hand, no gloves, in the water stream. As much as I love on-demand tank water heaters, they do sometimes, every so often, have a little blip, a little burst, and things get either too hot or too cold for a half second. And well, you know, again, not a big deal, right? It's just a quick little blip, and hell, most showers have, you know, regular water heaters kind of sometimes do that same thing where the temperature fluctuates just a bit. I don't want to ever be putting water on a goat that's too hot or too cold, especially today when it is pretty chilly. And like I said, I'm going to get saturated, so doesn't really matter. I'm going to feel everything they're feeling. So I've wet her one side only, and you may have noticed that. And I'm using mane and tail shampoo. It is formulated for horses, which makes it fairly appropriate for goats. For a long time, I used to use Dawn dish detergent because I thought I was being brilliant. One, it's a whole lot less expensive. Two, in my brain, you know, you want these coats to be silky, smooth, not greasy, and Dawn takes grease away, right? Well, one time a groomer I was talking to as I was looking for tips and tricks let me know that all I was doing was drying out her skin, drying out her coat, and effectively creating a need for her skin to produce more oils to replace everything I just washed off and dried off, and that I would be better off with a specially formulated shampoo. By the way, this groomer was not selling me anything. This was, you know, an acquaintance / friend. And although in my logical mind, using the dish soap made a whole lot of sense, and certainly I've washed a lot of dogs and a lot of animals in it, and you know, the whole, it's safe to get oil off of your, you know, baby birds and whatnot, made perfect sense. And technically it was, but what I was doing was actually damaging her coat, or their coat. It wasn't her at the time. And well, that seems to defeat the purpose of making a beautiful coat to go into the show ring, right? So we switched over to this mane and tail, and I've been really happy with it ever since. And you can see what I do here, right? It's not a long process by any means. Everything is with my bare hands. Again, I want to feel everything I'm doing. There's no gloves involved. There's no tools involved. I'm using my fingers, which have no nails because I live on a farm, to rake it through, to get it all lathered up. And then I will rinse her off. And again, this is the pre-show wash. So this wash is intended to really knock off the funk, right? To get everything clean, to get all that built up dirt and, you know, 6 months worth of crud that she's been in and touching and a part of. It's not intended to be perfection by any means. That's why we bathe twice. It's pass 1 of 2. If they're not a show goat, right? So if they're either retired or they're just simply not a show goat, their baths are a single bath at a time, right? I don't do the second pass. So I may spend just a hair more time with the shampoo and conditioner, or I might even do 2 passes with the shampoo at the same time. With a show goat that's going to get groomed again in 4 days, I'm not looking here for perfection. I'm looking for cleanliness and conditioning. And that's what's next as soon as I get this new bottle started. I'm not sure I love the pump. I'm pretty sure I hate the pump, but hey, this is what it comes with. So what I'm using for conditioner is not a horse conditioner. It is Tresemme conditioner. So that is a human conditioner. And it is for silky smooth, and it has argan and oleo in it. And I've been using this again for quite a number of years, and I really like it. Hell, I use it on my own hair. I like it for a lot of reasons, but particularly for the focus on smooth and shine, right? I'm not looking for volume. I'm not looking for anything other than silky smooth coat here. That is the standard for the show. That is what they should have. And this just enhances it. Now, it comes with the pump, and like I said, I'm not in love with it. I'd actually rather just a squeeze bottle like the shampoo. It's kind of a pain in the rear end. But that is it, right? So now what I'm going to do, actually, that's not what I want. I want my pin brush, and I'm just going to rake that conditioner through all her hair. Again, my hands are in it and feeling it, and you're going to see that I'm going to find some tangles, some hidden tangles that came out with the wash. I know. And you're also going to see probably a lot of loose debris start to come out, right? Like that. That's just more cashmere that's loosened up now between the two brushings and the washing. That is the whole purpose of this, is to get all of that loose debris off her skin, out of her coat, and hopefully gone at least until after the show. Of course, she's a pig pen and we'll go roll in something. But, ultimately that's the goal. And you saw how easy it was to really, even when I found debris or hit a spot like I am now, because of all that pre-brushing, because of all that work in advance, it's really quite simple to move it through the hair now. And it's not a lot because of all the pre-work, but it's a good amount. And thankfully it's wet, so I can actually toss it. So now I'm going to let that conditioner sit on this side, and we're going to rinse and repeat. No pun intended. On the other side, it is chilly. I am cold. She's not. She's actually more angry than cold. Other things for this session, that I did not have to do, thankfully. I do not have to do their hooves because I already did that last weekend. Next weekend, or 4 days from now, Thursday, I will do their hooves again, and it'll be just a touch-up. There'll be a little bit of growth, a week and a half or so of growth, and it's worth the extra touch-up. Yeah, I know, you don't like it. Too bad, so sad. It's not that big a deal. She's also a little angry because she's away from her babies. They are thankfully not screaming for her. Of course, that could start at any second. But it's really the same routine on this side. Right? So I truly mean it when I say rinse and repeat. I do the sides separately so that the conditioner has time to sit on each side, and so that she has a break on each side, right? This doesn't hurt her by any means. There's no pain involved. In fact, in fall, when they don't have kids, and hopefully the weather's a little nicer, they actually somewhat enjoy the touch and the massage. They don't enjoy being wet ever, but they somewhat enjoy the brushing, the touch, the massage, the getting clean. And you may have noticed that I haven't wet her head. That will be the last stop on this train today. We will wash her head, her bangs, her face. I do that after everything. It's the worst part of it for her, or for any of the goats really, is getting their head wet, their face wet, and then having to do it twice. Well, a lot of times actually, right? Wet it, shampoo it, rinse it, condition it, rinse it. So I don't want to do that a whole lot in the middle, because the more angry they are, the harder they are to work with. The more ornery they get. Meanwhile, she's being pretty good. She's hollering a little bit. She's complaining a little bit, but at the end of the day, that's nothing. Like I said, these are fairly quick baths. The show prep actually will be almost as quick, because there will be very little brushing that's required. There will be a lot more focus on making sure that every inch of her body is clean and smooth and silky, but it'll be a lot less focus on any brushing or tangles, because she shouldn't have any by that point. And what I'm doing here, as you saw on the other side, is really just thoroughly rinsing, right? And by keeping my hands involved, again, I'm feeling the water temperature. I'm making sure that she's just complaining. In fact, you can probably see some steam coming up. The water is not hot. It's warm to the touch, but it would be too cold for me to take a shower in. So the steam is actually because it's so darn chilly out and damp out. You're also probably seeing that I'm starting to stand in a puddle. This stall is drained, but the drain sometimes gets clogged with just, the normal debris of the barn. And I should have checked that before I started this process, so that I don't have to go kneeling in water. But yeah, it's just clogged up with gunk. There's a, what do you call them? Not sifters, strainer. There's a strainer there, so none of the debris, it's all just debris, goes in there. But once I get that cleared up, the water, it does actually typically disappear, and I'm not standing in ankle deep water. See, all better. All right, condition. Condition, brush, rinse, and then we'll switch to the other side. Rinse, brush, come back to this side, rinse, brush, and then do her head, and we'll be done. So the nice thing, again, about having, oh, now your babies are crying for you. The nice thing about having a dedicated wash stall, and this was a lesson learned from farm number 1, is that I'm able to have this level of equipment set up on kind of a permanent basis, right? So I don't have to drag a stand out every time I want to do grooming. I don't have to find a portable propane tank and drag it out and get it hooked up and everything else every time I want to do a grooming. I do have to take all the stuff out of the tack room in terms of my tools and my equipment, but the grooming stand stays here permanently. The tank, the water heater, is mounted permanently. The only thing we do in the winter is, of course, make sure it's drained, drop the hoses so nothing is going to burst on us. I love it. It's been in use now for almost 7 years since we've been on this farm. I did not have one on farm version 1.0. Farm version 1.0 required me to take my grooming stand. It was not this big beast. It was more of a portable stand. Drag it out to my front yard. Run a hose from my house. We did not have water heater at the time, so it was strictly cold water out of the hose. Wash them. The stand was not a riser stand, so they were not here at my level. They were on the ground. And yeah, the goats were miserable. I was miserable. My back would hurt by the end of a grooming session. My arms would be killing me. The goats would be absolutely ridiculously ornery. And I found that that's partially because they were so low to the ground, right? The stand just had a little hop up for them. And then, yes, it did lock them in. It didn't have side rails. It just had the head harness. And it did lock them in, but they knew they were on the ground, and they knew that if they could get their head out, they could be gone, right? So here, being able to put them up in the air is, again, better for the human. Yay, that's rare that it's better for the human. But two is it really does help with keeping them a little bit calmer. They know they're not going to get anywhere if they escape, if they thrash around and, you know, pull their head out of that harness. You know, they certainly can. And I have some that will. You'll see that, I'm sure, over the course of the summer. There are always one or two that will thrash to escape. But then they're loose, they're standing here, and the side rails are up. I'm right here, and they're not going to jump. That is not. The only one that's ever jumped has been Wren. And that was when she was much younger, like under a year old, and she was invincible, just like most kids, right? But no, at this age, they know that they're not jumping this high onto a concrete surface. They recognize that. They really do. And it just makes things a whole lot easier because they know once they're here, they're sort of here for the duration. I do it to the best of my ability as fast as I can. I'm as gentle as I can be. I make it as pleasant an experience for them as I possibly can be, knowing that it's, you know, not the most pleasant experience, period. I try and use the right tools to help with that. All of my tools and tips are below in the description box. So if you're looking for what I use, there are some things that I couldn't find, like this particular brush is no longer available. So I just, you know, gave you a link to another very similar brush with a different brand. If it's an Amazon link and you click it and actually make a purchase from it, I do get a very tiny commission. It's literally pennies, but it's a commission. So I always try and make that clear. I'm not selling, I'm not affiliated with these brands. It's literally an Amazon program so that if you buy from Amazon and you happen to get there through me, Amazon pays me, not the brand. So none of these brands have sponsored me in any way, shape, or form, nor would I expect them to, although it would be nice. Maybe someday. But at any rate, that just, again, want you to be aware of anything that I put out there that might benefit the farm so that you know we're full transparency here, right? If I'm going to make money off of it and I'm doing it for that reason, you will know it. I don't know that that's the reason I'm doing it because I'm not really making money off of it. But again, you will know in full transparency if I share a link or I share any information on a particular thing. If I'm somehow sponsored or somehow getting a cut, you'll know it so that you can make the right decision for you. All right, so both sides have now been washed and conditioned. On side one, I know, girlfriend, I know. On side one, she is ready to be rinsed. What's this? What's this? All right, we're going to rinse. And unlike with the shampoo, I'm not looking for the most thorough rinse in the world. I am looking for a reasonable rinse. I want most of the conditioner to be out, but if there's a little conditioner left behind, especially on the ends, I'm not concerned about that for two reasons. One, it won't hurt her coat. It'll actually possibly help her coat. Two, I'm going to be washing her again in 4 days, so it's not like she's going to get, you know, like if you leave soap on your skin, you can feel itchy. That's not going to happen with conditioner being left behind. And again, I'm kind of making sure that if it gets left behind at all, it's left behind on the ends, not the part that's touching her skin. And I'm not looking to purposely leave anything behind, but again, I'm also not looking to torture her for no reason. So, you know, the rinse is thorough, but somewhat fast. And the brush out, again, is because even after all of this, even after last week's brushing, the pre-wash brushing that you saw me do, the in between, you know, after condition brush, I'm working on my English skills. Even after all of those interim brushings, there's still some stuff coming out, right? And that's because it is spring, they are shedding, and she's a pig pen. So she's always a little bit dirtier than the rest of them. She's always got a little bit more debris in her hair than the rest of them. And back here, again, her hair is in not the best condition because she's nursing kids, and they are just, you know, beating on her pretty senseless in terms of getting to the teats, getting to her udder so that they can have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's about what they're at this point. Her kids are getting close to being weaned. And that is how we finish up one side of a goat. Now, what I will do on this side is now I'm going to continue to spray her, even though she's sopping wet and just got shampooed and conditioned. This is a Detangler spray. It's the same spray that I use every time I groom them. And that Detangler spray, and I'm switching to the slicker for this, is going on her now, even with wet skin and wet hair, just to assist with sort of that final shed out that's going to happen. I've stimulated everything for her. I know you don't like your tail being groomed. I know. I've stimulated all her follicles. I've stimulated everything to sort of release the last of the cashmere. It's coming out now pretty quickly, as you see. And she's got very little left, but this spritz of detangling spray will help. I'll just leave that there. It's already wet. Will help with that last bit between now and Thursday, and should make it much easier for me to, I've got to clean this drain again. I really should have swept the barn before I started this. It really will help keep her next groom as quick and easy as possible, with a lot less brushing and a lot more just washing and bathing. So side 2, much the same, right? Rinse the conditioner off. Make sure it's off of her skin. Make sure it's off of her sensitive parts. And then the only thing we have left to do is her head. So I know with poor Persephone, who's been first on the grooming stand for everything, you're getting a lot more educational chat than chatty chat. But we'll do some chatty chat, I promise. I got 2 more goats to do today. I'm already soaking wet. I'm freezing. It's so cold. And I owe you the videos, you know? So again, this side seems to be a little bit smoother, which tells me that she either lays on the side that's facing you, when she sleeps, or her kids lay on that side, or her kids climb on that side more. There's always a favorite side, right? Just like you have a dominant side and a non-dominant side. There's always the same with goats. So her side is actually apparently that side. Yeah, because there's really nothing much here at all. I mean, I've already brushed everything that I can brush on this side. And yes, stuff has come out, but it's come out smooth and tangle-free and really just easy, which is fantastic. So if you've been here this long already, one, I truly appreciate you sticking with me. Two, it would help if I had my spray. I'd love to know what you want to start chatting about during these grooming sessions. Do we chat about the world? Do we chat about things that are happening? This is a politics-free zone, so we don't talk about that, but things in the goat world or things in the animal world, we can talk about all sorts of stuff. Do we talk about random things? Last year, we talked a little bit about what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you streaming? Primarily because I needed suggestions. I was running out of books and things. I'm a pretty avid reader. I run through books pretty quickly. Thankfully, we have Knit Group for that. Those guys often come up with fabulous books and suggestions for me. I missed the bucket entirely. Oh, you have to tinkle? Thank you. Yeah? Your breath is blowing hot, girlfriend. So tell me what you want to chat about. I'm open. Oh, and we're going to poop too. Awesome. Thanks. And that is why I have a strainer on the drain. Guess what I'll be doing in a few minutes after I cut the video? Fun times, isn't it? All right, this is the part nobody likes. I get it. I get it. I know. I'm sorry. We try and do that as fast as possible. I know. Nobody likes it. And now the only difference that I do out of respect for her head and her eyes is I put the shampoo in my hands rather than just dumping it on her head, right? Just to get a good lather. Oh, I know. You don't mind that part. Get all these parts and pieces. More poop? You're killing me, goat. Let's call her a dog. And again, not going for perfection. Plus, of course, her head can't get as dirty as her body. We're going for clean. And this is the first one of two, so least of my worries there. Move that out of the way. A little conditioner for my girlfriend. Oh, yeah, thank you. And no, she's not choking. I'm not drowning her. She's just being ornery, and goats don't really have defense mechanisms, right? They can't spit. They don't, what was I going to say? They don't bite. So they can kick, they can holler, they can pee and poop, all of which she's done. And they can burp, right? But that's about it. And you're asking or you're wondering why I'm not leaving the conditioner sit on her head. It's just not necessary. It's good enough that it's been conditioned. It's good enough that it's been cleaned. I know. So that coughing, that kind of yuck is in reaction to the water, don't get me wrong, but it's not because she's swallowing water or because she's drowning. It's because she's mad. But you're clean. And that is it, guys. We are done with her. She's done with us, I assure you that. And I've got to clean up under the grooming stand here. And once I get that cleaned up, we'll get either Misty or Ren, whoever I can catch next, onto the stand. And we'll be done for the day. So hopefully this camera angle worked for you. I'm not sure if it did. But until next time, I've got work to do. Bye for now.